Are these people stupid? Like, genuinely.
I don't understand why it is that the government feels like it's better to import food.
Even if you do smash the rich, what are they going to do? They're not going to stick about. They're going to fuck off to another country. Then who's going to pay your taxes? British farmers. I mean, what's going on? I'm Izzy.
And I'm Garcia.
And welcome to Informally Informed. Okay, so, I mean, I suppose we should start with the inheritance tax thing.
Yeah.
So, the new laws in the UK, did some research into this. So, it used to be that farmers didn't need to pay inheritance tax because they're very asset rich but incredibly cash poor. So, if farmers died, passed the farm on to their kids, they couldn't be paying hundreds and thousands that they didn't have just because their land was worth a lot. So the new law is estates under 1 million is 0, 1 to 2 million is 20%, and above 2 million they're now paying 40% inheritance tax. So I did some maths. I worked out, I googled how much an acre's going to cost you in the UK and sort of worked it out based on there. Now the average UK farm size is 87 acres, which is pretty small, but it makes sense because anybody with a sheep and a couple of chickens can call themselves a farm. Right, so they're not, the people that are doing the mass production, they're feeding the country essentially. So I worked out that 1 million gets you about 70 to 100 acres, and 2 million gets you between 130 and 180, depending on various bits. But the average crop farm size in the UK is between 160 and 200 acres. And the average dairy farm size is between 210 to 300 acres, right? So this new law, anything above 2 million, it's all well and good
1
saying...
million.
1 million at 20% and 2 million at 40%. Is basically going to affect all the farmers that are actually doing basic. So I worked out that, say you're a dairy farmer and you've got, which is still in the average, 300 acres of land. That's gonna be worth about 4 million. So you're paying 2 million of that is at 40%, which is 800,000, and then the 1 million before that at 20%, which is 200,000. If you're within an average dairy farm size in the UK and your father dies, the British government is going to come after you for £1 million in cash that you don't have.
So I guess you've mentioned the acres, but for me, I looked at the tax changes which covers agricultural assets. So it's not just the land, it's everything. So
the tractors.
That's why it's been dubbed the tractor tax.
Ah, right, yeah.
So the average farm has they've got equipment, all right? That equipment goes towards their assets. They're taxed overall on everything on that farm. Therein lies the problem. You cannot have a farm without tractors, without equipment, without milkers to milk the cows, or those machines that they shove them in now. If they're paying tax on that, then it's going to affect potentially up to 35% of all farms. Though the government estimates it's only 27, leaning closer to 27%. That's still a high amount of farmers that it's affecting in the UK.
But even if it's based on the acres, that's pretty much most crop farmers and all dairy farmers.
Yeah, so
a lot of the smaller farms, like wildlife and animal farms, they don't need as many acres, so obviously they're included in that, and it's not going to affect them. But the crops and the dairy, it's going to affect all of them.
So the National Farmers Union claimed the policy risks forcing cash-poor heirs to sell farmland, endangering family farms and food security. High-profile figures like Jeremy Clarkson, who I know you went to his farm recently, have criticised the reforms as a hammer blow to UK agriculture. So, considering there's a war in the Ukraine, which is the breadbasket of the world, breadbasket of Europe, right? We're already in a situation where the price of food is going up and up and up. Why are the government fucking over the farmers?
Oh, I can answer that question very easily.
Go on.
Because they're so obsessed with what they deem to be the rich that they don't really care about anything else.
But when
They're
they
so,
look at the rich...
hang on. They're so obsessed with we need to tax the rich, we need to pull them down a peg or two, that they don't seem to care about the effect that it's having on the poor. They don't care about pulling the poor up. They care about bringing the rich down, and that's what it does. Anybody with land, those are the bad guys. Let's just tax them, this, that, and the other. It's so ideologically driven. They haven't got a clue how that's actually going to affect people. People that don't have money.
When I think of the rich, I don't think of farmers. I've never thought of farmers when I think of the rich. I'm not saying that there aren't rich farmers.
Yeah, but these are the socialists and the people that don't believe in property rights. Keir Starmer doesn't believe in property rights, so of course he's gonna. It's the kulaks, right? This is the ideology that they have. If you have land, that you're bad.
Yeah, and I mean, they're looking at it as though farmers are making money like that, and they're not. Because a survey of the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit found that more than 80% of UK farmers have had their livelihoods harmed by climate change. So they're not yielding the crops. The foot and mouth disease, they had to kill half the farms, which keeps making a resurgence. So I remember when foot and mouth disease came out in the early 2000s. Do you remember that? And they culled all the cows and stuff. And I didn't realise it made such a massive resurgence lately.
Oh, I grew up obviously in a farming area, and the freaking signs, do not enter this farm, foot and mouth, all that kind of stuff.
So 87% are reporting reduced productivity on their farms, and 84% are seeing lower crop yields, and most are suffering from income losses in the last 5 years. So that's been since COVID.
Do you watch Clarkson's Farm?
You know I don't watch it. I've tried to watch it and I cannot.
I know it was for the people watching.
Oh, okay. I've not seen it.
Still do have a come on them,
but I'll try.
So, Clarkson in season 4, Jeremy Clarkson made a comment because the weather was just awful. He said that he's had a couple of farmers saying to him, ever since you decided to start farming, the weather's been terrible. You've caused, obviously it's a joke type thing. So based on that, I mean, sure, I think that COVID obviously would have had an effect, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the UK has had really bad weather for the last 4 years, at least since Jeremy Clarkson's been doing his farm. And you watch that show, and he's sat because the crops need to be certain temperature before they can be harvested. They have to be certain dryness. They've got a machine they got to put it through, all this kind of stuff. And if they're waiting, and if they don't plant the crops at the right time, they're like, we need to wait for the ground to be less soggy. And then it's the point where we need to get these crops in the ground now, or our yield's going to go down and down and down every single day until we get these crops in the ground. And then when they eventually do plant the crops, they're so desperate to get them in. Jeremy Clarkson, in season 4, which is the season where he's getting the pub and all that kind of thing, when eventually they were like, you know what, fuck it, we're just going to have to start drilling, he worked through the night until 7 a.m. on that tractor, and then went straight back to the pub to try and sort out. Obviously, that's his choice. Most farmers don't have a pub. But he was working like all hours God sends, like until well into the night. And a lot of farmers do this, like 7 a.m. till midnight on a tractor. And there was one of the new people in season 4, Harriet, he was talking to her about her life. And because farmers, they've got their own little culture, their own little community. Instead of having fancy cars, on their screensavers, they've got like pictures of tractors and stuff like that. She was talking about just how lonely it is spending weeks on end in a field sat on a tractor, but that's what you've got to do. And when Caleb went to see Rishi Sunak in like season 2 or whatever, he made the point of saying to him, it's not a job, it's not a career, it's a way of life, and it's a vocation.
Yeah. So on that note, the spring of 2025 was particularly harsh. After the wettest winter in 250 years. Yep. Farms faced with record high temperatures and drought severely damaging planting and pasture quality across the country. So I turned half my garden into an allotment because I signed up for an allotment, and there's like a 25-year wait, okay? The only reason that I've not grown anything this year is because when it came to it, I couldn't turn the grass over because it was frosty, and then it was too wet, and it would have destroyed the ground after I'd already prepared the ground, put down potash and all the rest of it, ready for me to be planted in. But I couldn't plant, and I don't have a farm. That's just half my garden that I've turned into an allotment. But I've not been able to grow anything outside this year, even though I brought all the things in preparation to plant outside this year. I can't do that. So I can't imagine what the farmers are going through. So the resulting harvest after this wet winter saw a decline, which contributed to a £1 billion loss in arable income in 2024 and raised serious warnings about long-term food prices rising by 34% by 2050, a phenomenon termed climateflation. Because the fact is, we need to eat as a species to survive. Ukraine, the breadbasket of the world, is currently embroiled in war. We're stifling our own farmers that would produce the food to sell to us. Our government is destroying that. So what's that? That's just going to lead to us having to import food.
It's ridiculous.
Which
This country needs to be more self-sufficient.
Yeah. So despite promises of a £5 billion support fund for 2024 to 2026, the June 2025 spending review just happened, signalled steep cuts to nature-friendly farming subsidies, especially impacting larger farms, while only small enterprises qualify for continuing support. So the government is killing farmers, essentially. They're killing the farmers. They're killing their livelihood.
They're not just doing it in the UK either. The France was up in arms. The Netherlands.
Yep.
I heard about that. There was farmers protests in the Netherlands.
And not to mention the new land use frameworks, which have been proposed, which is removing marginalised or upland farms from active food production in favour of conservation, rising fears of displacement and loss of rural livelihoods. Also, they're just building everywhere.
They're just trying to get rid of all the arable farms.
And they're just building on all the green land, which we would use to traditionally use to make food so that we can survive. But then what I'm looking at is what the government is doing, which is creating a bigger import situation for us, which is costing taxpayers money for them to import food, which they're then selling back to us at higher prices. This is ridiculous. It used to be that I'd go to the greengrocers, right? Because I didn't used to buy fruit or veg from the supermarket, as you know, because GMO. I got a whole thing about GMOs and fruits. And anyway.
They don't actually do GMO in this country.
They don't, but if we import it, that's the issue for me, is the importation of foods.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I've always gone to the local greengrocers and bought my fruit and veg there. My local greengrocers is actually shut down, closed, because they're undercutting the Aldi, like I mentioned in one of the other videos, selling fruit for 50p. So they can't now afford to keep the shop open to sell things because it's costing more and people aren't going there. We're going away from what we know in society to be the good food to go over to an American model of things. Cheap food instead of good food. We're looking at cost instead of quality, and that's where we're at. And so I understand the plight of the British farmers, because I want to be able to know what's going on into my body.
It's the end of a culture, really, at the end of a people. You know, if they end up selling that, and there's been 2 recorded cases of people taking their own lives. The first one is a farmer in Wiltshire, took his own life after suffering acute emotional distress following the inheritance tax announcement. And there was another farmer that declined cancer treatment to spare his family the burden of the inheritance tax bill. So those are the people go on, oh yeah, there's been loads of suicides. There hasn't. There's only been 2 that I can find. But this inheritance tax law isn't going to come into effect until the 6th of April 2026. So it'll be interesting to see if we see an increase in those closer to the time.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that they get rid of that word which I was describing before is called farm washing. That's what it's called. It's called farm washing, and it's it's getting rid of the farms in favor of imported goods.
It's a slippery slope. I don't understand why people seem to think globalism's the way forwards, right? People, oh yeah, we just import all our food. Yeah, we used to get a lot of our food from the Ukraine, and look what happened there. Are these people stupid? Like, genuinely, if we import all our food and then something happens in one of those other countries, we're fucked. What the hell is the British government thinking about?
They've not thought
Globalist ideology. That's what it is.
Which is killing the farms.
Which is killing the farms.
It's killing local things in favour of big industrial things. But in terms of British agriculture, like you just said, it's under unprecedented stress that hasn't been seen for 100 years.
And a lot of that doesn't really have anything to do with the government.
No, because farmers are battling economic fragility, unpredictable weather, policy mistrust, and social pressures, all while striving to meet food security demands and climate commitments, because they're also being held under this net zero thing. And the future hinges on reconciling production needs, environmental goals, and fair taxation. This farm thing, the farmer's tax came out of nowhere. Did you see this coming?
No.
It was just announced one day. I thought that as a country, we understood that farmers were our backbone.
Yeah.
I thought we understood this, especially after everything that we saw with the fishing industry. Once we came out of Brexit and Britain started selling off all of our fisheries, our fishing waters and all the rest of it, loads of regulations on that, even though we're an island. I've noticed that since then, I've been hearing more and more about what we should do instead of, and the government telling us what they think is best in terms of our food. Never before has there been this level of intervention in terms of what's happening with our agriculture. Britain we've gone from an agricultural society. We're now a financial and service industry led society. But we wouldn't be where we are now without the farms. Like you said, the Netherlands have got swaths of areas that is just farmland. And it's you know what I mean? It's a bigger place than here. Mm-hmm. We are a tiny island. And we're an island that's separated from everywhere separated from everywhere in Europe, right? We need to be able because an island. We need to be able to produce our own food.
We 100% we do. Yeah.
I don't understand why it is that the government feels like it's better to import food. And one of our previous episodes where we looked at food quality, we discussed all the issues without regulation of food.
Or maybe they're just hoping that the farmland is going to be bought up by large conglomerates who can then grow food and then sell them at a cheaper rate, and then we wouldn't have to deal with any of the tariffs. They'd still be local homegrown food, but with a load of presumably shit in them.
And we're already in a situation where heart disease is a leading cause of death in this country. We're killing ourselves and subsequently killing our children and the next generation. The next generation won't even know what farms look like because they'll be a thing of the past. Like real homegrown mom and pop farms. Like I love farming. I really do. I love the idea of growing your own food. And you know what? I'm good at growing things. It is what it is. I like the idea that you know where it comes from. Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, there was the great potato situation of 2020, wherein I grew far too... That's what we're calling it now. I grew far too many potatoes. But you know what I did? I gave it to everyone. Didn't you get loads of tomatoes?
I got...
Potatoes, tomatoes and peas?
Potatoes, tomatoes and peas, yes.
Whatever. I gave them to my neighbours and gave them around because guess what? I grew too many. That's what you're supposed to do. We've gone away from community. We've gone away from the pillars that made that community. And it used to be things like farming and schools.
But you know what? This is what they want.
I know.
The British government, this is what they want. They want to turn the United Kingdom into a more globalist economy. They want to be importing things.
Everything that we don't need to import.
And they're doing it under what they think is the guise of, we'll just, smash the rich and all this kind of stuff. But I don't think they seem to understand that
they're not smashing the rich. They're just ruining the poor, ruining
and
society.
they're just ruining the poor, number one. And number two, even if you do smash the rich, what they're going to do? They're not going to stick about. They're going to fuck off to another country. Then who's going to pay your taxes?
Exactly that. And what happens when you tax up all the farms and then they have to sell them? They sell them to companies that are then going to use that land to build houses. And then there's not enough food to feed those people that come into those communities.
What happens if we end up in World War III and the Germans start bombing our ships down in the middle of the...
Probably be the Russians.
Whoever start bombing our ships down, trying to bring food. You know, the rations during World War II, of these people not learned by now that it's important for us to be creating our own food and to becoming more self-sufficient, not less.
I've said this in a previous episode and I'll say it again. When we came out of Europe, the European Union, we've not geographically left Europe. When we came out of the European Union, I thought that this would give us more say over what we do in terms of our food and the things that we do.
That's why we voted to leave.
I thought we'd go into a situation of protectionism. We've not done that. Instead, what we've done is started to go more towards globalization. We haven't learned anything.
And I don't see any lessons being learned anytime soon.
I don't.
From the British government.
No, you're right. But what I also see is that the farmers, who I 100% support, by the way.
100%, yeah.
Are being screwed over by this government and their interference.
By Starmer the Farmer Harmer.
He's got so many names. He's harming so many people. But that's all I have to say on it, really, because I just want I want to bring some light to the plight of the farmers, understanding that they are still going through this, even though the mainstream media are no longer covering it as much.
And watch Clarkson's Farm, because it really does give you a genuine idea of the struggles and the plights of what it's like for everyday farmers.
Unfortunately, they don't sponsor us, so unsponsored. But yeah, I feel it for the farmers. I really, really do.
Yeah.
I feel it for myself. I can't even grow food in half my garden, let alone in a industrial sense. So, yeah. Anyway, join us next time.
And let us know what your thoughts are, and if you're a farmer, comment below, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one. Let us know if you agree or disagree with any of our views. That's the point of the conversation. Join in.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.